Hello, I'm here doing this video a little bit different than the usual. I've been wanting to try to incorporate into my channel a little bit more of the other side of myself that I'm very passionate about, this spiritual journey. I created a video in which I share a little bit the beginnings of it all, what I discovered and what was important, a video that you'll see later on. But something happened, and let me explain. I created the video, I uploaded it because I wanted feedback from my sons, and I wasn't sure if it was clear. The feedback was that maybe I needed to rework it and explore the explanation more. The video was unlisted, but somehow one of my Patreons watched it and left me a message saying, Cecilia, I think there's a problem with your video. It says unlisted, but I was able to see it. I didn't know if that was the video because it was privatized. Nobody should have been able to see it. And I asked her, what did you think? She shared that she loved it, that she was moved by it. I was going to scrap this video, kind of rework it, but I felt that she seeing the video and she reaching out to me to tell me how much she liked it was a signal from the universe that I needed to share this. I hope you find this video useful. I want to say thank you so much, Pam. This video is dedicated to you. I hope you enjoy. I've been thinking a lot about how I want to continue with my channel. And besides showing a lot of the transformation that it's going slow, but it's going of the home, I really wanted to give a little bit more dimension and share a little bit more about my approach. Perhaps it could be helpful because it doesn't matter which creative project you might take. Doesn't have to be at home. It is important to have this extra information for it to be as rich as possible and as meaningful as possible. None of this matters if that doesn't exist. So I'll take you back a little bit about what was the item or what was the thing that really transformed my life. My husband and I were very curious and a little bit different than both of our families, in which we would have these deep conversations about, what's the meaning of life and so on and so forth, and kind of curious and dab a lot into books and seminars related to self-exploration. And then when we were having issues between the two of us and we had a young family and a business, we discovered this personal work that really lined up with us. And I'll share more eventually about all that. But the true switch, the light bulb went off the day I had my oldest son, my first baby. It was a really life-changing moment. And I know, having children is always life-changing. But for me, it was a little bit extra. It unraveled by all these emotions and eventually with time and being challenged by what's it like, because it's not an easy thing when you become a new parent. But it really unraveled and unearth a lot of emotions that I had no idea I had from my childhood. To condense it, to simplify so I could articulate this better, I would say I grew up in a family in which there was absolutely zero emotional intelligence, zero consciousness. We're talking about fairly intelligent people, and I don't know, I thought it was a normal middle class, family, and I went to good schools, and my family took vacations here and there. This was in Argentina. But there was a lot of, it was a painful childhood. I don't have joyous memories growing up. Now, for many years, it kind of got shoved away and kind of like, you move on. And I always had a difficult relationship with my mother, a non-existent relationship with my biological father, and a very superfluous, non-impactful relationship with my stepfather. Once I got married and had a family of my own, I really wanted to understand, I really wanted to have what I wish I had as a child. And when my husband and I were having some difficulties, we decided to go get help, which was the best thing we ever did. But you know how the say goes, when the student is ready, the teacher shows up and the universe deliver. Because not only we came upon an amazing therapist, but a very intelligent, spiritual mentor. She became this amazing guidance for us. She passed away, and then we continued with another amazing person who was trained by the same master or the same mentor to them. Learning the concepts of emotional intelligence is, I think, the most essential way to navigate this human existence, the spiritual human existence, right, on this earth. And the reason is it really gives such a depth and perspective that I'm going to try to articulate, because it changed my life. It changed absolutely my life for the better. It doesn't matter what difficulties come my way. And yes, I have fears still, and I get triggered by things, and I still have desires, but I'm able to tap into this external perspective and expand and see that there is so much more than just what it seems on the surface. I wanted to, first of all, there's a lot of lingo on the internet where, emotional intelligence can be also explained. The definition could be, very academic like. But I'll try to speak from my heart, because at the end of the day, that's all it matters, is to have this understanding and self-responsibility and accountability, and how to create boundaries without ever losing your power and without ever giving the power to someone else, where we are never the victim. And as much as we might think that you're trapped by circumstances, or the person puts you in this and that situation, by having this perspective, it helps you be creative and see more dimensions in which you can find the best solutions. It's so abstract, but self-awareness is the most important one, because in not making yourself wrong, because we're emotional beings, and that was something that there was a lot of shame growing up. Anytime there was any expression of frustration, anger, or sadness, or it was shame upon. So somebody who is emotionally intelligent is able to have those emotions without feeling shame, and then is able to decipher the behind of the emotions. The triggers could be karmic, could be unprocessed something. See, if we shame any of the emotions you never explore, emotions are a good indicator of where we need to work, where we need to like look at, demystify, and where the fears are. Because a lot of the time, anger comes from fear. Having language helps a great deal. That was another thing that was a big deal, is having all this language. Then it helps you organize your thoughts and emotions and place them in the right place inside, so you can look at it all separately and understand more. It's important that you cannot read a definition, right? You can go and read books about, how to get emotional intelligence, and you get all the definitions and what this feeling is and what this feeling. But the true work is living it, having it, looking at it, and it's rounds of it over the years. So, for example, if you're afraid of something in particular, every opportunity you have in which the fear gets triggered, if you don't shy away or deny it, if you observe it, eventually you will demystify it, because you looked at it for so long and you try to understand it and you try to own it. And then all of a sudden it dissolves. But what I want to make clear is this is not something you read once, you do it once, and that's it. Because sometimes triggers or whatever might come in different flavors, even though might be always the same at the core, but they come in different flavors. And it requires a muscle that you need to train by practicing over and over and over again and you have to be intentional, because if you don't really mean it, you're never gonna transform. Transformation is intentional. So by just reading and intellectually understanding is not enough. It's just barely the beginning. Then you have to put it into practice. Self-accountability, ownership, boundaries. And it's funny because a lot of the time I see people using the word boundary as a weapon instead of what is supposed to be, which is a clear line in which, oh, I need to take care of me. I can't be absorbing whatever or agreeing or taking care of you. But sometimes people use boundaries as a weapon, so, nuances like that, understanding all that, and learning to operate from your heart. I could speak about the journey I had dealing with when my husband and I were having our issues. We knew to go get help and learn, and we discovered that we were posing on each other this responsibility of making each other happy, which is so the wrong thing to do. And I spoke about that in another video that, I talk about relationships. Obviously, I'm working, about how to improve and communicate with my husband, and that immediately spills into other relationships. I learned so much. For a long time, while working on myself and realizing that I had a terrible relationship with my mother, our fights used to be so on the surface about her truth and my truth, whatever that means. And it's all about fact checking and who is, and it's never, ever gonna work, because what's important is underneath that is the hurt or them being misunderstood or not being seen. So for a long time, throughout therapy, in fact, in the very beginning, it was really hard to even share some of this because I felt I was betraying my mother by sharing my experience, and then feeling the hurt for a long time. And then when that loop is processed, feeling the sadness of what I didn't have. First you're upset, then you're sad, sad and upset, then sad. And then finally, we're talking about 25 years of working on myself. And now I landed because I've been at it nonstop and very intentional and fascinated by this journey. Being absolutely grateful for having that experience because I genuinely believe that it was what was meant for me, for my expansion, my consciousness, and it has provided me a life that is beyond rich. I like myself to the fullest. I'm sure I could expand even more, but I'm very, very much comfortable in my own skin now. Not something I could say in the past years. And it has given me the most incredible relationship with my two sons and my husband, where I finally, and we're still working and I'm still evolving, but I feel we're living very freeing of any responsibilities other than ourselves. In any case, the goal of this sharing is that if you are or you have experienced a sad childhood or a sad relationship with a partner or a family member, a fresh perspective would be if you can see that that was meant for your benefit, for your enrichment, for practicing and learning, pushing your boundaries on how seeing things, for finding your power, for being pushed to exploring beyond what you see in front of you. Because of this journey I took on not just learning emotional intelligence, which it's an incredible thing to have because it allows you to get to know yourself, what is important to you, what matters to you, but it forces you to learn your boundaries. You learn what matters. You don't focus on guilt. Guilt it's a coping mechanism to not deal with things. And it gives you that energy you need for pursuing what you're meant to be doing on this time, on this earth. I feel so lucky to have taken that journey. And I'm extremely grateful to my mother for forcing me to finally, she cornered me to the point in which I don't have a relationship with her. I had to cut it off, but I gave it my all, so no regrets. And I love her from afar. It's been 15 years since I've spoken with her, and I wish her all the best. Lots of love, towards her. But I cannot have a relationship with a person who has no self-awareness and doesn't have the tools or the language and is always needing to be fulfilled through others. And that's the thing. When you do personal work, you don't need anyone. It is a lovely experience to exchange and be in relationships, but you don't need anyone. That's what it gives you. It doesn't mean you don't want to be with others, because I love hanging out with my husband and my children and people, some lovely people. But I'm enough. I'm enough for myself. And that's amazing. That's very freeing. I always think about this example. I don't know why, but maybe this is useful. I remember watching this movie from the 70s, Kramer versus Kramer. And I remember viewing it in my 20s for the first time and seeing the perspective of the child in a way. And then many years later, once I became a mom, seeing the perspective of the parent, and now thinking about it, being much older, having another perspective. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make by that is that with emotional awareness and consciousness, we get to see more and more dimensions and angles of people, situations, ourselves, and it's an incredible, invaluable asset. So I encourage that if you're having any difficulties with anything at work or with family members or with your children or with your spouse, to maybe, go explore and look up what does it mean. And but again, remember, it's not just the definition, but the application. And sometimes that takes time. It's a muscle you have to build. Anyway, I hope you found this useful. And let me know if you have any questions, if you want me to expand on anything in particular. And I guess I'll see you next time.